In this video, I'll share with you some tips and advice on using Trello for your trade journaling. I'll share how to go about using Trello, what Trello is. I'll also share how you should use this in conjunction with a spreadsheet. The first thing that I'll start with is if you're a new trader, I think this is the best option. If you caught my previous video on trade journaling, you know that I talked about doing two different trade journals. You want an overall trade journal where you cover your trading day, your trading week, and your trading month. And those are high-level issues that you want to deal with and you want to journal and really solve to further develop your edge. The other trade journal that I mentioned is an individual trade journal. And this is where an application like Trello can really come in handy. The one thing I will start with as well is that I know there's software out there that is specifically focused on trade journaling, and I'm actually moving to a software solution myself. If you're new to trading and you have not developed your edge yet or your trade system, I would highly suggest that you do not move to those software solutions or you don't start there. And the reason for that is because all of your energy when you're first starting to trade should be focused on developing your edge and developing your ability to pull capital from the market, developing your system. And the learning curve that you have to go through, and it's not a huge learning curve, but just the small learning curve you have to go through to actually learn a journaling software and use it and put it into your system and make it part of your trading system and everything else, your time is better spent on something that's really lightweight. Something like what I'll share here, Trello with a spreadsheet. And as you develop your edge and as you mature as a trader, I think you will move towards a software solution. But a lot of times people get focused on the wrong things. And the wrong thing is spending any time and energy on a software solution tracking something that you haven't developed yet. Develop that system first and then move to something that you can track. For a long time, my trade journaling was all done in paper. I would print out charts, I would write notes, I would go back. I did a spreadsheet and paper, I should say. So spreadsheet so I could track the numbers that were important, and then I would go out and print out charts at various times when I checked them up. Really, exactly what I'm going to show here in Trello is what I did in paper. So let's jump right in, and I'll start with a high-level overview of what Trello is. Trello is basically a project management or a to-do tracking application. You have this ability, as you can see here, you can create lists. So I can create various lists, and then I can put things in those lists. And there's various things I can do. I can add descriptions. I can add comments to these various items, as you can see here as I open a trade. You'll notice that I have a list here, watch list, active. So those are my active trades. Trades that have ended in profit, and then trades that have ended in loss. Now, it's really simple. I mean, all you have to do is you can just grab one of these cards here and just drag it over to the next. So once something becomes in profit, I can drag it here, or if it was a loss, I can drag it here. And then when I want to go in on a trade, for instance, so I have an active trade and I want to do a trade update, all I have to do is open up this trade. I can see everything that I've done on that trade. I can add a new comment and add a new update. And I'll go through how you should do that and what you should be doing on these individual things here as we move forward. But you'll see it's really easy to use. You can add various due dates. You can add checklists. You can add labels. So I could maybe label this the type of trade it is. I'm really not using this to the maximum that I could be using it, mainly because I don't use it for my trade journal. I put these trades in here for examples because as I shared, I do my trade journal in paper and then spreadsheets, and I'm in the process of transitioning over to a software solution. So I finally decided on a software solution, and I'm moving everything over to that, and that's going to be a change in my process, but I'm excited to actually have numbers in a different way, different reports. So what you see here, let's just go through an individual trade. So you'll see there's a picture here that I've downloaded of a chart, so I can see my initial technical analysis and everything else that was what it looked like at that given time. The other thing that I'll mention is that this is kind of a standard thing that I fill out on every single one of my trades. And down below in the description, if you actually want this to easily copy to your trades, you can just copy this as just a text file that I have. You can just copy this, and then when you create a new trade, so basically let's say I'm going to do a new trade here, add another card, and let's say I'm going to do, I don't know, XLM, BTC, so BTC, and then I add that card. Now I would go in here, my first actual thing that I would put here is I would save this, and then I could go in here and then I could start filling it out. So I could say this is a long, and then my bias is bear, and then where I would buy, the amount, and everything else. And then I would just go through and fill out every single one of these. So all of these things are important. All of these things are things that you should be filling out in your trade journal. Your awareness, your trade setup, how did you become aware of this? What are your moving averages? What is BTC doing? What's your confidence? Where's your stop placement? Why did you choose that? Your psycho, which is basically your psychological makeup. How are you feeling? What are you thinking? Are you frustrated? Are you okay? Are you calm? And then obviously these are for later, for when the trade actually works out. So that's basically how you go in there. And then the one thing I will say on this is that what you'll have to do is open up a chart here. So let's go to a chart, and let's actually open up XLM, BTC. And let's say that I'm still in a trade on XLM here. Actually, it's probably, yeah, no, it's not that trade. So I'm still in a trade looking for this support to hold here. So let's say that this is a trade that I was entering right now, XLM. So I was going to enter a trade right now. Here's one of the things you need to do, especially if you're using TradingView, is that you have to actually create a picture of that so it'll show up. If we go back to the actual trade here, notice how these actually show pictures, but this one doesn't show a picture. Well, that's because I've attached a picture to that. And in order to do that, what you have to do is you basically have to go here and click the camera icon. So take a snapshot of this, and then I would have to download this to my actual computer here. So I'd have to save this. So I could go here, and then I'd have to actually save this image. I've tried it where you could actually grab this link here. And then what you could do, if you don't want a picture on each one, I just like the way it looks with the pictures. So I like having these pictures here so I can kind of see the charts and everything else. But let's say you don't want to do that. All you'd have to do is just drop this in here, and then on a comment you could add a link. And then now you have a link to the actual TradingView chart, what it looked like when you entered that trade. So that's one way you could do it. The other way that you'd have to do that is you'd have to save your image to your actual local computer. So you'll see here I saved it to my local computer here. And then all you'd have to do is, once you have it saved there, is just then from there just drag it over. And then now when you drag it here, that first image that you actually drag will be the actual thumbnail for that actual card. So there you'll see now I have a thumbnail to that. So that's one little trick that you'd want to do. And then really it's just filling this out. Now, the thing that you can do, or I should say what you should be doing, is if I open up this trade here, this active trade here, you see I've already filled out all the information. So I filled out where I came up the trade, my reason for doing the trade, and then you'll see as I scroll down, there's various other images. And these are images. This one here is an additional image that I added at the time that I entered the trade on a different time frame. And then you'll see that there's other images here, and these are when I've done my trade update. Depending on the type of trade you're doing, so this was a swing trade. I was expecting to be in this trade for maybe a couple days, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. It really depends. What you want to do is you want to have in your trade system, when do you check on your trades? For me, it's typically every single day. So what I would do, and this is what you'll want to do, is this is an actual trade update. And typically in my trade updates, I'll actually include an image as well. So if I want to, I have a chart with that. But you'll notice my trade update is pretty detailed. And the one thing I will say about trade updates is that you're not just going in there and looking at the chart. So if we look at this and say, well, you're looking to get to a binary decision. Do I stay in this trade or do I get out? And the other thing that you want to do is look at the two scenarios. There's 3 scenarios really. Price could stay in this range, stay in this channel. It can move up or it can move down. Now how it does that, is how you will look at whether or not you want to stay in that trade, where you would expect to find support and everything else. Well, in your tracking of your trade, you want to actually go through and journal that. You'll see right away I say decision, stay in trade, exit if support below 7,000 sats breaks. And then I actually share an option 2, and this is me adding to my position. So if I see strength and it continues to break out, and I see stopping volume or a retracement, then I'll add a second position to this position. So that was my option 2. I share where my position was down, and then really I just go through and do what I call telling the story of the chart. And I just talk about, what do I see? What would I like to see for me to stay in this trade? And you're just game planning your next move. And I can't stress this enough. This is one of the biggest things that will help you grow as a trader if you do this consistently, and I should say completely honestly. This is just for you. It's not for anybody else, unless you have someone where you're actually training with and they're looking at your trade journal. But even then, you should be completely upfront. You should be completely honest. And this is the quickest way to grow as a trader, is to create a very detailed, specific trade journal that you're updating as much as possible. This actually, this example that you see here is actually a little bit less than I typically do. I don't do as much as I used to, because I've really I've got into my groove. I've created my trade system, and I trade my system, so I can shorthand a lot of these things. But when I'm looking to trade a new market, so for instance, I just really started trading options a lot more than I have in the past. My trade journals on options are pretty detailed. They're twice, or if not 3 times as long as my Forex or my crypto trades, because I'm looking to apply my system to a new market that I haven't traded. So even my equities, when I trade equities, I'm trading kind of the same system within crypto, Forex, and equities. Options is a little bit different. And I'm still trading kind of my core system, but I'm trying to figure out how to trade it within options. So my trade journal is much more detailed. I just think that the more that you can keep a detailed trade journal, and I shared this in the previous video where I shared examples. You notice there's a lot of people that keep detailed trade journals, and that's one of the fastest way to grow as a trader. I can't stress that enough. So let's get back to the tips. There's really, the only other thing I would add is that just go in there and update it, and as the trade works out, then you're going to do an after trade report, and you're going to move it to the profit, or you're going to move it to the loss. And then you want to schedule in your calendar times to go in there and look at these past trades. Look and see what your thinking was. So if this was a trade that was a loss, I'd want to go in there and look at it, read through it, look at the chart, see what happened after that, and really do an after action report, so to say, on that actual trade. The other thing that I'll add here is that this is great. This is a great way to do a trade journal, but it has some limitations. The first limitation is that you don't have your raw numbers. So these numbers that I have here, I don't have in a spreadsheet that I could actually run reports on or really look at. And that's where what you'd want to do is use Trello in conjunction with a spreadsheet like you see here. So I did have at one time, or I shared a spreadsheet like this where you keep it as a trade journal. The challenge with that is that there's so much that you want to capture here as your logic, as the situation, that it just doesn't make it friendly to use a spreadsheet. Where if you really just limit it down to the numbers here, now I have the best of both worlds here. I have a really lightweight way to trade or to track my trades. So I have a spreadsheet with just the raw numbers. And then I actually have Trello, so I can expand on that, have pictures and everything else. And this would be used in conjunction. And this allows you so that you could actually run reports on this. You could actually, if you really got fancy, you could do various things about how long were you in a trade. You could obviously get your averages and everything else like that. So in conjunction with Trello, you want to create a simple spreadsheet like this where basically you just have what are you trading? You're capturing the same information, so you're kind of doubling it up, but you actually have the raw numbers. So I have my entry price, my exit price, the percentage. This is my stop loss. Is it a trailing stop loss? These are all things like my exit price. So this is as obviously the trade, the outcome of the trade here, profit and loss and everything else. So these are things that you want to capture. And that in conjunction with Trello is really the easiest way to have a trade journal using a software solution that allows you to go back and track it and without getting into the full-blown software that I mentioned before. I think if you're a new trader, you're up and running right away with this. You don't have to learn anything. You have to learn this software if you're not familiar with Trello, but it's real simple. It's very intuitive. A lot of these other trade journaling software, they are intuitive, but there's a learning curve there. And I'll just restate this. If you're a new trader and you have not developed your edge in the market, where should you be focused? Should you be focused on trying to learn another system and something brand new in conjunction with learning the market and everything else? Or should you be focused on trading and developing your edge? I know you know the answer to that. It's really developing your edge. So keeping it simple. And even with your trading, you should be keeping it simple. But keeping it simple and tracking it is really good. I have a lot of, I have a lot of printouts. I print out a lot of charts. I write on a lot of charts. That's why I'm really moving to a software solution. So I do two things, and I'll just share. I keep a very detailed spreadsheet. Actually, some of the systems I trade with actually do this automatically for me. And then my trade journal is really a series of graph notebooks and I printouts. So I print out charts and I write on it. So yeah, I go through a lot of paper and ink, but I like that tangible feel. So it's going to be a little bit different for me to move to a software solution, but there's a lot of benefit to that. In my next video in the training, I'll be sharing that software solution and I'll be sharing why I chose it and how I think it when you do mature as a trader, moving from something like Trello and spreadsheets is really simple. Because the other thing that this does when you use a system like Trello and like spreadsheets just in conjunction is that it trains you to start thinking and using a system. That way your learning curve to then start using a system is way less. You've already developed the muscle of actually doing a trade journal. So now it's just where are you doing it? So I think that this option is the best for new traders. If you're not journaling, I would suggest you look at it. Once again, it's Trello.com. And there's not much more I can add. It's pretty cut and dry. Don't overcomplicate it. Go in there, develop a system that works for you. Down below in the description, you'll see a way to copy this information. So if you want to start with this, these are the things that I suggest that you capture in every single one of your trades. You also see a link to the Discord group. You'll want to join that because I share my trades. You can ask questions. I share various things that are going on in the market. The other thing is that you'll see a link to tools that I use as well. So definitely check those out. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.